Welcome to Learnivo English Stories, where we learn English through the real lives of extraordinary people. In this series, you won't just study grammar or vocabulary, you'll travel through the journeys of dreamers, inventors, and leaders who changed our world. Every story you hear here is true, told in clear, natural English, so you can understand, feel, and grow with every chapter. Today's episode is about a man whose imagination reached beyond the earth itself, a man who turned failure into fuel and dreams into rockets. This is the story of Elon Musk, the dreamer who changed the world. Let's begin.
Chapter 1. Elon Musk, the dreamer who changed the world.
When we talk about changing the world, we often imagine leaders, inventors, or dreamers, but rarely do we meet someone who is all three. Elon Musk is one of those rare people, a man who believed that even the most impossible dreams could one day become normal. He wasn't born into luxury or fame. He didn't have a smooth path or an easy start, but what he had was a restless mind, a mind that refused to stop thinking, imagining, and building. Elon Reeve Musk was born in Pretoria, South Africa, in 1971. His mother, May, was a model from Canada who worked hard to raise her three children. His father, Errol, was an engineer who often spent long hours on machines, tools, and projects. Little Elon was quiet, sometimes shy, and often lost in his own thoughts. While other kids played soccer, he sat in a corner with a book, reading about space, science, and superheroes. He loved stories about worlds beyond Earth, about rockets, planets, and the idea of human beings living on Mars. At night, while his friends slept, Elon stayed awake, turning pages under the dim light of a bedside lamp. Sometimes he would imagine flying away, leaving everything behind to explore the stars. But school wasn't easy for him. He was often bullied. His classmates made fun of him for being small, quiet, and curious about things they didn't understand. Once, a group of older boys pushed him down a staircase so hard that he had to be taken to the hospital. That day he learned something painful. The world can be cruel, but he also learned something powerful. Pain could become fuel. Instead of giving up, he turned his energy toward learning, dreaming, and creating. By the age of 12, Elon had already taught himself how to program computers. No one had guided him. There were no online tutorials or teachers, only a small book about programming languages. He studied every page, line by line, and after weeks of effort, he wrote his first simple video game. It was called Blastar, a space shooting game where the player destroys enemy ships. He sold that small game to a magazine for $500. For many kids, $500 was a lot. For Elon, it was proof that ideas could bring value. At home, things weren't always peaceful. His parents divorced when he was still young, and life became more complicated. He spent some years living with his father, but their relationship was often cold and distant. Elon found comfort not in people, but in books, biographies, science fiction, and encyclopedias. He once said that reading helped him escape into a different world. That habit became one of his greatest strengths. He learned from everything he read. In his teenage years, South Africa was a country full of challenges, strict laws, limited opportunities, and social conflict. Elon felt that if he stayed, his dreams would shrink. He started to look outward, to the world beyond. He dreamed of going to the United States, a place he believed was the center of invention and progress. But there was a problem. He had no American passport, no money, and no clear way to move there. Still, he found a path. His mother had Canadian citizenship, and through her, Elon applied to move to Canada. At 17, he left South Africa with a small suitcase, a few clothes, and a huge dream to build something that could change the future. He didn't know what that something was yet. He only knew that it had to be big, something that could help humanity grow beyond the limits of the present. When the plane took off from Johannesburg, he looked out of the window. The land beneath him slowly disappeared. He was scared but also excited. That was the first time he realized that leaving home can be the first step to finding your purpose. In Canada, he had no family wealth, no job waiting for him, and no special treatment. He stayed with relatives at first, then worked small part-time jobs, washing dishes, cleaning, even working on a farm. But every night after work, he read, studied, and planned. He kept reminding himself, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. He later joined Queen's University in Ontario. He walked across the campus, a tall, quiet boy with curious eyes, often lost in thought. He didn't waste time partying or showing off. He spent hours in the library reading about energy, engineering, and space exploration. His classmates sometimes called him the boy who dreams of Mars. And they were right. Elon's mind was always years ahead. He believed that humanity's biggest problems, pollution, fossil fuels, transportation, and even space travel, could be solved with the right technology. But in those days, they were only dreams, drawn on paper, whispered to a few friends, and kept alive by faith. When he finished his studies in Canada, he decided to take the next big leap, the United States. He was still young, still unknown, but his hunger for innovation was unstoppable. In 1995, he entered the University of Pennsylvania, where he studied physics and economics, a combination that gave him the logic of science and the mind of business. He didn't know it yet, but those two skills would one day help him launch rockets, build electric cars, and create companies that would change history. And this is where his real journey began.
Chapter 2: The Turning Point, the First Companies, and the Road to PayPal.
When Elon arrived in the United States, he felt a sense of freedom he had never known before. Everything around him seemed fast. People moved quickly. Technology grew daily, and ideas were worth more than money. He studied hard at the University of Pennsylvania, finishing 2 degrees, one in physics, the other in economics. But deep inside, he didn't want to become just another student looking for a safe job. He wanted to create. He wanted to build things that could move the world forward. After graduating, Elon had the chance to continue his studies at Stanford University in California. It was one of the best schools in the world, but he only stayed for 2 days. Yes, 2 days. He realized that while he was sitting in classrooms, the world outside was changing fast. The internet was exploding, and he felt that if he waited too long, he would miss his chance. So he dropped out and started his first company with his younger brother, Kimball Musk. They named it Zip2. Zip2, the first step. Zip2 was a simple idea, a city guide for newspapers. At that time, most businesses were not online yet. Elon believed that one day every company, every shop, and every service would need a website. He wanted to help newspapers add digital maps and directories for their readers. Elon and Kimball rented a small office in Palo Alto. They couldn't afford a proper apartment, so they slept in the same office, using beanbags instead of beds. They showered at the local gym and worked up to 20 hours a day. In the morning, Elon coded. In the afternoon, he met clients. At night, he improved his software. Money was tight. They ate cheap food, mostly noodles and sandwiches. There were days when they didn't know if they could pay the rent, but Elon kept going. He believed that hard work could beat luck, and that every problem could be solved with logic and persistence. After months of effort, Zip2 began to grow. They finally found investors who liked their idea. One of the biggest moments came when the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune agreed to use their technology. That deal changed everything. In 1999, Compaq bought Zip2 for $307 million. Elon earned about $22 million from the sale. He was only 27 years old. For the first time, he had real money, but he didn't see it as a chance to relax. He saw it as fuel for his next dream. X.com and PayPal, a revolution in banking. Soon after selling Zip2, Elon started another company, one that most people didn't understand at first. It was called X.com. At that time, sending money online was difficult and unsafe. People still used checks and cash. But Elon imagined a future where anyone could send money instantly through email. His idea was to create an online bank, something that could make financial transactions simple, global, and fast. When Elon explained this to investors, some thought he was crazy. Who would trust the internet with their money, they asked. But he didn't stop. He invested $12 million of his own money from the Zip2 sale into X.com. He hired engineers, designed systems, and worked endlessly to make it safe and easy. 1 year later, X.com merged with another small startup called Confinity, founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin. Confinity had developed a small service called PayPal, an email-based payment tool. Together, their teams created something that would change how the world moves money. In 2000, PayPal started growing fast. Millions of people began using it for EBAY transactions. For the first time, individuals could pay and receive money without sharing credit card details. It was quick, secure, and revolutionary. But success never comes without conflict. Inside the company, there were disagreements about leadership and direction. Elon wanted to expand PayPal globally using Microsoft technology, while others preferred Unix-based systems. In 2000, while Elon was on a flight to Australia, the board decided to replace him as CEO. When he landed, he was no longer the boss of his own company. It was a hard moment, one that could have broken his spirit. But Elon didn't fight, he accepted it. He still held shares and he still believed in the mission. When PayPal went public and was later sold to eBay in 2002 for $1.5 billion, Elon earned around $180 million from the deal. He was rich beyond imagination, but money was never the point. He had tasted both success and rejection. He had built two companies from nothing, slept in offices, and been fired from his own creation. Yet he didn't stop. He was already thinking about what came next. Something far bigger than software. Something that could help the entire planet. Elon once said, "If something is important enough, even if the odds are against you, you should still do it." That belief became the driving force for his next journey, a journey that would take him beyond Earth itself. As he looked back on his path so far, from a small boy in South Africa to a millionaire in Silicon Valley, Elon knew one thing for sure. Every fall, every mistake, every sleepless night had taught him resilience. And that resilience would soon be tested like never before. Because his next mission was not about the internet, it was about the future of humanity.
Chapter 3: SpaceX, Tesla, and the Years of Struggle.
After PayPal was sold, Elon could have retired. He was only in his early 30s and already a multimillionaire. Most people would have bought mansions, yachts, or taken long vacations. But Elon never dreamed of comfort, he dreamed of progress. He began asking himself one big question: what problems truly matter to humanity's future? After months of thought, he found three answers: space, energy, and the internet. He had already worked on the internet through PayPal. Now he wanted to face the other two. 1. The dream of SpaceX. Ever since he was a child reading about rockets, Elon had been fascinated by space. He believed humans must become a multiplanetary species, living on other worlds to ensure survival in the long run. But space travel was extremely expensive, controlled by governments and large agencies. NASA's rockets cost hundreds of millions of dollars to launch. Elon thought that if private companies could build reusable rockets, the cost would fall and exploration would grow. In 2002, he founded Space Exploration Technologies Corp., better known as SpaceX. He invested $100 million of his own money, nearly everything he had earned from PayPal. Many people laughed. They said, "This is crazy. No private company can build rockets." But Elon didn't listen. He gathered a small team of engineers and dreamers in a simple warehouse in El Segundo, California. They worked day and night, designing, welding, testing. Their first goal: build a small rocket called Falcon 1. It took 4 years of failure, frustration, and fire. The first launch in 2006 ended in an explosion. The second in 2007 failed to reach orbit. The third in 2008 also crashed after takeoff. Each failure cost millions. Reporters began calling him the foolish millionaire. Investors left. Even his friends advised him to stop. At that time, Elon had spent almost all his money on SpaceX and another company called Tesla. He said later, "I had to choose, keep one alive or both die." He decided to risk everything. Second, the rise of Tesla. While SpaceX was fighting gravity, Tesla was fighting disbelief. In 2003, a group of engineers had started Tesla Motors with a dream: to build powerful electric cars that people actually wanted to drive. When Elon heard about it, he immediately joined as the main investor and later became CEO. He believed electric cars could solve one of Earth's biggest problems: dependence on fossil fuels. But making an electric car was not easy. Batteries were heavy, expensive, and short-lived. People thought electric cars were slow and boring. Elon wanted to prove them wrong. The first Tesla car, the Roadster, looked sporty and modern, but it faced endless production delays. Costs rose. Critics mocked him. By 2008, Tesla was on the edge of bankruptcy. At the same time, SpaceX had just failed its third launch. The world economy was crashing. Elon was nearly broke. He had 3 small children, sleepless nights, and no guarantee of success. He later said those months were the worst days of my life. Third, the fourth launch and a miracle. In September 2008, Elon and his exhausted SpaceX team prepared for one last attempt. They had enough parts for only one more rocket, their fourth. If it failed, SpaceX would die. That day, engineers and family members held their breath as Falcon 1 lifted off from an island in the Pacific. The rocket climbed higher and higher, glowing orange against the blue sky. Minutes passed. Then cheers erupted. It reached orbit. For the first time in history, a privately built rocket made it to space. Tears filled Elon's eyes, and he whispered, "We did it." Only weeks later, NASA called. They had seen the success and offered a $1.6 billion contract to SpaceX to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. In one moment, everything changed from near death to new life. 4. Saving Tesla and changing transportation. Around the same time, Tesla found a last-minute lifeline. A group of investors believed in the company's future and provided new funding. Elon personally loaned his own remaining cash to keep employees paid. Slowly, Tesla survived. By 2012, Tesla released the Model S, a sleek, fast electric car that could drive hundreds of kilometers on a single charge. Critics who once laughed now praised it as Car of the Year. Tesla began building supercharger stations to let drivers travel long distances. One by one, doubts turned into belief. Elon didn't stop there. He launched Solar City, a solar energy company run by his cousins, to make clean energy more affordable. Later, Tesla merged with Solar City to create a single ecosystem of electric power and storage. He talked openly about a new project, the Hyperloop, a high-speed train that could travel faster than airplanes. People said he was dreaming again, and he smiled because that was exactly what he loved to do. 5. A man of risk and resilience. Between 2008 and 2015, Elon Musk lived through extreme highs and lows. He slept in factories, fixed car parts himself, and personally answered customer complaints on Twitter. When production problems hit, he stayed up all night on the factory floor. When journalists attacked him, he ignored them and focused on solutions. He was called a genius by some, a madman by others. But in truth, he was both a dreamer and a worker, the kind who sees problems not as walls but as puzzles. SpaceX continued launching rockets, Falcon 9, Dragon, and later the Falcon Heavy, the most powerful rocket since the 1970s. In 2020, SpaceX became the first private company to send astronauts to the International Space Station. For Elon, that was more than a victory. It was a promise kept to his younger self, the boy who once read about Mars under a dim lamp. 6. Beyond Earth. Even as Tesla grew and SpaceX succeeded, Elon's dreams grew bigger. He announced plans for Starship, a massive reusable rocket meant to take humans to Mars. He founded Neuralink, a company to connect the human brain with computers, and in The Boring Company, to build underground tunnels to ease city traffic. Each new project had the same goal: to push human life forward. When asked why he works so much, he once said, "Nobody ever changed the world on 40 hours a week." He often sleeps in his office or even inside a Tesla factory, saying he wants to stay close to the problems he needs to solve. He laughs little, smiles rarely, but when he does, it's the smile of a man who sees the future in his mind. 7th, the lesson of the struggle. The years of struggle taught Elon Musk that success is never final and failure is never fatal. He learned that innovation means trying again and again until something works. His story shows that even in the darkest moments, when money runs out, when rockets explode, when everyone walks away, one person's belief can still light the sky. He once said, "When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor." And for him, the odds were never in his favor. Yet he changed transportation, energy, and space travel all at once.
Chapter 4. The Modern Era, Achievements and Life Lessons.
As the years went by, Elon Musk became more than a businessman. He became a symbol, a person who proved that bold ideas can move from imagination to reality. But success didn't make his life simple. The bigger his companies grew, the louder the world's eyes followed him. 1. Tesla becomes a movement. By the mid-2000s, Tesla was no longer a small electric car maker. It had become a movement. People who once laughed at electric vehicles now wanted them. The Model S showed that clean energy could also be beautiful, powerful, and fast. Then came Model X, Model 3, and Model Y, each car bringing the dream of sustainable driving closer to ordinary people. Factories called gigafactories began to rise around the world, in Nevada, Shanghai, Berlin, and Texas. Each one produced batteries and cars at incredible speed. Inside those factories, Elon often walked among engineers at midnight, checking lines, fixing problems, and sleeping on the floor when deadlines were tight. He once said, "You can't lead from a distance, you lead from the factory floor." For many drivers, owning a Tesla was not just about having a car, it was about joining a vision for a cleaner planet. The company's value grew until it became one of the most valuable car makers in history. Still, Elon reminded people, the goal is not money. The goal is to speed up the world's transition to sustainable energy. 2. SpaceX rewrites the sky. While Tesla built on Earth, SpaceX reached for the heavens. After the Falcon 9 became reliable, Elon focused on something even bolder, making rockets reusable. In the past, every rocket was thrown away after launch, wasting millions of dollars each flight. SpaceX engineers designed boosters that could land themselves upright back on Earth. The first few tests ended with explosions, flames, and twisted metal. Each time Elon smiled slightly and said, "We'll fix it." Finally, in 2015, a Falcon 9 booster touched down safely. For the first time in history, a rocket returned home instead of crashing into the ocean. Crowds around the world cheered. That moment changed the entire space industry forever. Then came the Falcon Heavy, capable of carrying enormous payloads into orbit. In 2018, Elon used it to launch one of his own Tesla Roadsters into space, with a mannequin astronaut sitting behind the wheel. The car floated past Earth with a message on its screen, "Don't panic." It was both a joke and a reminder to dream big, even when the odds seem impossible. In 2020, SpaceX carried NASA astronauts to the International Space Station, the first private company ever to do so. For Elon, it was the closing of a circle. A boy's dream turned into human achievement. Third, Starlink and connecting the world. After that, he looked back toward Earth again. Millions of people across the planet still had no internet access. Elon launched a new project called Starlink, a network of thousands of small satellites that circle the globe, bringing fast internet to even the most remote areas. For farmers, students, and small businesses in faraway places, Starlink became a bridge to the modern world. To Elon, it was another step in his mission, to make technology serve humanity. 4. New Frontiers, Neuralink, and the Boring Company. At the same time, he founded Neuralink, aiming to connect the human brain directly with computers. He believes one day this could help cure paralysis or even help humans keep pace with artificial intelligence. Another of his ideas, the Boring Company, focuses on solving city traffic by building underground tunnels where cars could travel quickly without congestion. Many called these projects strange, even unrealistic. But that didn't stop him. Elon once said, "Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster." For him, these companies were experiments, attempts to make life smarter, safer, and more exciting. 5. Challenges and criticism. Of course, his path has never been smooth. With fame came criticism. People questioned his tweets, his leadership style, his long working hours, and his risk-taking behavior. Sometimes his words caused market changes. Sometimes his ideas seemed too wild, but even his critics admitted one thing: he always delivered something real. In interviews, Elon rarely talks about luxury or fame. He speaks about survival, about ensuring that life on Earth and beyond continues for generations. He laughs awkwardly, avoids fancy clothes, and often appears tired but determined. When asked what motivates him, he simply says, "I just want to think about the future and not be sad." Sixth, life lessons from Elon Musk. Elon Musk's journey is not only about technology, it's about mindset. Here are some lessons his life quietly teaches. Dream big, even if others laugh. The world changes because of people who refuse to think small. Work harder than anyone expects. When he had nothing, he worked 20 hours a day. When he became rich, he worked even more. Fail fast, learn faster. His rockets exploded, his companies almost died, yet he always came back stronger. Stay curious. He never stopped reading, learning, and asking questions. Build for the future, not for applause. Every invention he created aims to make tomorrow better than today. Elon once said, "Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up." That sentence defines his entire story. 7. Closing reflection. Today, Elon Musk leads companies that send satellites into space, cars across continents, and power into homes. He is one of the richest people on Earth, but his true wealth lies in something else: imagination. The imagination to see what others cannot, and the courage to make it real. When you finish hearing his story, you may not want to build rockets or electric cars, but you might feel a small spark, a reminder that even ordinary people can do extraordinary things if they keep trying. Because the boy who once read about Mars didn't stop dreaming, he simply never stopped working to make those dreams real. And that is why the world now looks up, not just to the stars, but to the dreamers who dare to reach them.
And that brings us to the end of today's story. Elon Musk's journey reminds us that success isn't a straight line. It's a road filled with lessons, challenges, and courage. Now, before we finish, let's take a few minutes to explore some of the useful English words and expressions you heard in this story. Understanding them will help you speak with confidence and think in English, just like the dreamers who change the world. Let's look at today's language focus. Restless mind.
A curious mind that never stops thinking or asking questions.
Elon had a restless mind that kept searching for new ideas, even when others were asleep.
Turning point.
A moment when everything changes, for better or worse.
The sale of PayPal was a turning point that allowed him to follow his dream of space travel.
Against the odds.
When something is very difficult to achieve but you try anyway.
He succeeded against the odds, even when everyone said it was impossible.
Take a leap.
To make a brave or risky decision.
Leaving university after only 2 days was a huge leap of faith for Elon.
Rise from failure.
To keep going and rebuild after losing or failing.
After 3 rocket explosions, he still managed to rise from failure.
Fuel for a dream.
Something that gives energy or motivation to reach a goal.
Every challenge became fuel for his dream to reach Mars.
To prove someone wrong.
To show that people's negative opinions were false.
Many doubted Tesla, but he proved them wrong with the Model S.
edge of bankruptcy.
When a company is almost out of money and might close down.
Tesla once stood on the edge of bankruptcy before investors stepped in.
Embrace change.
To accept and adapt to change positively.
He said, "You need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster."
Persistence.
The quality of continuing even when it's hard.
His persistence is the reason rockets now land safely back on Earth.
Visionary.
A person who sees possibilities for the future that others cannot.
Elon Musk is known as a visionary who looks beyond the present.
Push the limits.
To go further than what is considered possible.
He always tries to push the limits of technology and human imagination.
Build for the future.
To create something that will help the next generation.
He said his goal is to build for the future, not for applause.
Dream big. Work harder.
Don't just dream, act. Make your dream real through effort.
His story reminds us to dream big and work harder than anyone else.
Make the impossible possible.
To turn a dream into something real that people once thought couldn't happen.
SpaceX and Tesla both show how he made the impossible possible.
If you remember just a few of these phrases, you'll not only improve your English, but also think more like a creator, a dreamer, and a doer.
Thank you for listening to Learnivo English Stories. We hope this episode not only helped you learn English, but also inspired you to believe in your own dreams. Remember, learning a language is just like Elon's journey, step by step, mistake by mistake, and always moving forward. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with your friends who love learning English through real stories. Your support helps us bring more inspiring journeys to life. Until next time, keep learning, keep dreaming, and never stop believing in what's possible.